What's up, everybody? Welcome to Monday Marvels.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Monday Marvels. This is Marvel number 146, and this week our friend Alex has a word about worship. You know, worship is so much more than just raising your hands on a Sunday morning. And this week's Marvel is entitled True Worship. Check it out.
Hey guys, it's Alex. Today's Marvel is all about true worship. I think it's important today as Christians that we really understand what it means to worship God, and what God expects from us in worship. So let's start in Matthew. If we go to Matthew chapter 15, starting in verse 7, we see an interaction here between Jesus and the Pharisees. And Jesus has this rebuke for the Pharisees. He says, "You hypocrites, Isaiah prophesied correctly about you when he said, 'These people honor me with their lips, but their heart is far from me. They worship me in vain.'" To worship in vain means that there's nothing there. It's what vain means. It's empty. And although the Pharisees at the time would recite prayers and do all of these things to get the attention of the people and make it seem like they were worshiping God, really they were in vain. They weren't worshiping God at all because their hearts were far from Him. And if we go into the Gospel of John, we get an understanding of what it means to really worship. If you go to John chapter 4, we read about Jesus and the encounter with the Samaritan woman at the well. And it's a beautiful story about this interaction. And Jesus tells her basically everything about herself, even when they first met. She had no idea who he was at first. And then she testified and had everyone else from the town come meet him. And many in the town believed based off of what they heard. But maybe that's for another day. What I want to share with you is this. As they go on into their interaction, down in verse 21, Jesus says this, "Believe me, woman, an hour is coming when you will worship the Father neither on this mountain nor in Jerusalem. You Samaritans worship what you do not know. We worship what we do know because salvation is from the Jews." And this is the key part. "But an hour is coming and is now here when the true worshipers will worship the Father in spirit and in truth." Yes, the Father wants such people to worship Him. God is spirit, and those who worship Him must worship in spirit and in truth. So what's Jesus seeing here? What does that mean to worship in spirit and in truth? Well, what Jesus is talking about is true worship, and He says it Himself. So that means if there's such a thing as true worship, there's such a thing as false worship. And I think too many times today in our church culture, when we think of worship, we automatically just think of the music and the hand raising and the singing the songs. And all that's great. That praise is wonderful. That can be a part of worship, but it's much more. And even more so, that can also be nothing if your heart is distant from God. So how do we worship in spirit and truth? Well, I think the first thing is thinking about truth. Remember Jesus, when He was asked what the most important commandment is, it was to love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your strength, and with all your mind. So when we think about that, how do we worship in truth? Well, I think it starts with our mind and understanding the truth about God and who He is and what He's done for us. When we realize the truth of who God is as our creator, the sustainer of this universe, our redeemer, the one who is filled with justice, who is perfectly good, perfectly right, and God is love. When you get and you start to wrap your mind around these truths, you're worshiping in truth. And not only that, when you come to accept and realize those things, that flows from your mind, from your truth, down into your heart, into your spirit, into your soul. You see, it says here that God is spirit. And us being made in the image of God, we all are spirit also. We have a soul. In fact, that's what we are. We are a soul. We're just in this body for right now. So what's that mean? That means we have to worship God as He is, not confined to this space-time that we're in, but in our hearts. So it doesn't mean that we worship by our feelings, but it's realizing the truth of who God is and then in our hearts having admiration and value for who God is. In fact, the word worship literally means worthship. We're thinking the worth of God and we're assigning that a value. And because God is infinitely good, he has infinite value. And we need to recognize that and worship him as such. So yes, we sing the songs, we raise our hands, but it's much more than that, because our worship is the outward expression of these things happening in our spirit and in our truth. What happens in our mind that flows to our heart, that begins our love for Jesus and who he is and what he's done for us. And then outwardly, we express that through praise, through singing, through praying, through talking to people, through everything that we do, even physically helping people out, sacrificing ourselves, giving our time and donating and helping bring back Mifflin County, for example. But not only that, let's finish this up by going to Romans. If you go to Romans chapter 12, I think this sums it up beautifully. In the beginning of chapter 12, it says this: "Therefore, brothers and sisters, in view of the mercies of God, I urge you to present your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. This is your true worship." So no, worship isn't just on Sunday morning. It's a lifestyle. It's how you live your life in reverence for God. It's how you live your life knowing the truth about God, from your heart position of loving God, and the outflow of that, everything you do in your life is your true worship. And lastly, I'll leave you with this. If you think, okay, I know this, I understand, let me ask you this. Why do we worship? Do we worship for ourselves? Of course you're thinking, no, we worship because God is worthy, because God is good. But how many times do we leave a church worship service on Sunday and think, boy, that preacher was really going. I really liked that message. I really liked that song. Maybe you're thinking, I really didn't like that song. Well, guess what? Now we're making it about ourselves. Now we're making it about ourselves rather than God. The question shouldn't be, did we enjoy the worship service? The question should be, was our worship pleasing and acceptable to God? So I hope this blesses you. I hope this encourages you to live a life of true worship to Jesus, because he is worthy each and every day. Peace.
Hey guys, I want to thank you so much for checking out the video today. Man, it is such an encouragement reading your comments, seeing the likes, and just the interaction and connection that we're having through the Marvel videos. So you guys are blessing me. So continue to do that. Comment, like, share, and let's keep spreading the good news of Jesus Christ and make an impact in our world for good. Come on, bless you guys. Take care.